I was so glad I only had one of you playing April Fool's joke on me this morning. Thought I'd give him. Our George said he was all upset with me and he was leaving the church. And he said, April Fools. I told him that's why ministers are paranoid. I may not do April Fools, but I couldn't resist. I did find some Easter Bunny jokes. Are you ready? Why was the Easter Bunny upset? He was having a bad hair day. But my personal favorite, what do you call 10 rabbits running backwards? 10 rabbits running backwards. Somebody got it. A receding hairline. The rest of them start to go downhill real fast. What do you call a rabbit with fleas? Bugs Bunny. Oh, you can move on now. This is for all you bakers. Any bakers here? What do you get if you pour boiling water down a rabbit hole? A hot cross bunny. I gotta wrap this up. Where does the Easter Bunny eat breakfast? IHOP. At IHOP. Okay, I think I made my point. Okay, what I'm really here to talk about today is the cross. Believe it or not. I used to not like crosses because I grew up, every Sunday we had to look at this bleeding cross of Jesus suffering and the blood was dripping and it was all our fault, right? Anybody else grew up with that besides me? But then I came into Unity and I found about the esoteric meaning of the cross. And now I love it. I want to share a little show and tell. My daughter-in-law, Raquel, brought me this from her hometown in Zacatecas, Mexico. I'm going to pass it around because it has the most beautiful beading work on it. You can see how beautiful the cross can be when it's interpreted rightly. You see, if you look at me as a cross, this line going here is the world of duality. I'm over here, there's somebody opposite over here. There's always something opposite. We can see it as an adversary. I don't like that. They're opposite. They're not like me. But if we stand centered in our knowing of our oneness with God, of our union with God, we resurrect to a higher state of mind above the world of duality, and the cross becomes the symbol of the resurrection point between where this reality meets with this reality. We know our union with God and we resurrect. It becomes then a very powerful, meaningful, and wonderful symbol. So if you'd repeat with me, if you're comfortable, in union with God, I rise above this. Together, in union with God, I rise above this. And that can be a prayer for whatever you're going through. Jesus was Jewish, and the favorite common prayer that they prayed a lot was, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one." We say the same thing in Unity every Sunday, don't we, when we say there is only one presence, one power, and there's that union and that wholeness, and fully understanding that. If you get that teaching, you've got it all. You don't need anything else. So Jesus came with that symbol of the cross to cross out this fear and separation-based reality. Rise above the fear and separation-based reality to that full realization of a union with God. And then he had the audacity to say, "These things that I do, you can do also, and more." Wow, what a powerful Easter message. The resurrection point where we can rise above anything. But man, we live on that world of duality, don't we? That world of opposites where there's good, there's evil. And I don't know about you, but when I'm on this plane, if I'm over here, I'm looking at the people over here on the opposite viewpoint of mine, and I'm saying, what are they thinking? And they're looking at me and saying, doesn't she get it? Do you see how we live on this world of duality? I'm the good guy, of course, over here, right? They're the bad guy. Isn't that the way it always is? What are they thinking? Doesn't she get it? The world has never been more divided or more further apart from that union. I mean, we've got the liberals and the conservatives, the right and the left, guns or no guns, greed or compassion. It seems to be impossible to reconcile the two. It reminds me of the old story, some of you have heard this. In a small Midwestern conservative town, a new bar decided to remodel a building to open up its business. The local Baptist church started a campaign to block that bar from opening with petitions and prayers. Work progressed, however, right up till the week before opening, when lightning struck, hit the bar, and burned it to the ground. While those church people were real smug in their outlook that week after that, until the bar owner decided to sue the church on the grounds that the church was ultimately responsible for the demise of the building, either through direct or indirect actions or means for their prayer. While the church vehemently denied all responsibility or any connection to the building's demise and replied to the court. As the case made its way into court, the judge looked over the paperwork at the hearing and commented, "I don't know how I'm going to decide this, but it appears from the paperwork we have a bar owner that believes in the power of prayer and an entire church congregation that doesn't." You see how that adversary mentality, there's just no winning with that adversary mentality. Will that ever be healed? We look around. Well, true prayer and meditation is the only answer. And Jesus said you have to go deeper. You know, his disciples were out fishing. That was one of the few times they really prayed, when they were out fishing. And they weren't catching any fish. They had no fish stories to tell that day. So they called on Jesus and said, "Help us, we're not catching any fish. How should we do this?" And you know what he told them? He said, "Cast your nets deeper. Launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch. But you've got to go deeper." Now, we interpret all Scripture metaphysically, which means the story's about a state of mind. Everything's a state of mind. And so we have to go deeper from the state of mind where we're looking at the surface, and we're only looking at the fear and the separation, to a deeper state of union, where we see and know only oneness, only wholeness, and then we catch the fish of divine ideas. Fish are divine ideas of how we can rise above whatever situation we're in. And it means having to move from an intellectual understanding to a deeper heart of knowing your union with God. That's a much deeper knowing your union with God. And I tell you what, right now in this world, light workers have been strategically placed all over the world where their energy would do the most good. How many here have told me a story about how all of a sudden one day you woke up and realized you'd moved to Green Valley and you had no idea why? Anybody here wake up one morning, "Why did I do that? I left everything and came to, I have no idea, but here I am." We've all been drawn here for a reason, every one of us, to come together with like-minded people, to stand in that support of our union and our oneness. We're not here just for the golf and the sunshine. We're here where two or more gathered, that light increases. And you can feel it when you walk in here, can't you? When you walk into the excitement of coming together with like-minded people that support and comfort each other. Right now the world has in maximum separation from the center. Furthest apart from the center we can get. And we need places of unity where opposites can integrate. Where opposites can integrate. There's a wonderful book by author Hannah Beaconsfield. She said the dichotomy of opposites in your world is so pervasive as to make it almost impossible to imagine what sort of reality would evolve from the integration of those two polarities. In other words, how can you integrate good and evil? How can you integrate right and wrong? She said the brutality of some with the idealism of others. Will we mix dirt with water and end up with mud? Isn't that an interesting question? So she goes on to tell a story of how we can make it work. She said there was once property, two lots next to each other on a piece of property. And on one side of the property was a manicured lawn. They must have had landscapers. Everything was perfect. There wasn't a weed in the grass. There were flowers growing, but very orderly. Everything was perfect. In the lot next to it, it was trash, there were weeds, and there was a fence between the two. And one day somebody took down the fence. And as I was reading it, I got a little uncomfortable, didn't you? Thinking, oh, those weeds are going to go right over to the manicured lawn. But she said they waited for a time, and sometime later they went back to return to look what happened. And she said the most wonderful thing happened. Their eyes lit up. What they saw was a beautiful meadow. It had become a beautiful meadow. All the elements of both lots have integrated, and the results is a reality that you would define by a positive term, a meadow. Yes, wildflowers and beauty and growth. That is our story of going from duality to union. When you encounter, anytime you encounter, anybody here encountered a close encounter of an adversary kind this week? When you make that close encounter of an adversary kind, just say, oh, this is what separation looks like. That's all we have to say. Oh, that's what separation looks like. We don't have to build a story around it. And then we have to go deeper or higher, whichever way you see it. One reflects the other. Into that higher reality of union, of wholeness, that resurrection point of the cross, where we rise up from the world of duality to the world of oneness. That is the tree of life talked about in Genesis. That's ironic in this country right now, that all the division is forcing us into union. Isn't that interesting? All the division is forcing us into union. The contrast is forcing us into love. Doesn't always look that way, but we're being forced to make a decision. Now, the Course in Miracles talks about this. It says the world will end in joy because it's a place of sorrow. The world will end in peace because it's a place of war. The world will end in laughter because it's a place of tears. Those opposite dualities will unite in a meadow of love. How beautiful can that be? The integration of polarities, and duality will be replaced with wholeness and union, the true message of the cross. Imagine what that world would be like. Because we can have it right now. It doesn't have to be in the future. It's a state of mind. It's a state of mind. We have to wake up from that sleep of fear and separation. It's just an illusionary dream. All the fear, all the separation, and the media feeds it. They keep feeding it by saying all this diversity, you could lose something, you could be hurt by it. Those weeds will come into your yard. No. It will become a beautiful meadow. Jesus taught his disciples the way of the cross of duality, that point of resurrection, to go deeper or rise above it, whichever way you look at it. And there was one beautiful gospel that never made it into the Bible. There were a lot of gospels that didn't make it into the Bible. They were far too profound. But Jesus, in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus' disciples said to him, when will the kingdom come? They were waiting for it then too. And Jesus answered, it will not come by watching for it. It will not be said, look there, look here. Rather, the kingdom is spread out upon the earth, and people just don't see it. Too busy looking at that instead of seeing that. If your leaders say to you, look, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, oh, it's in the sea, then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is within you and outside of you. When you know yourself, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father. But if you do not know yourself, then you live in poverty, which is fear and separation. And you are the poverty, fear, and separation. Cross it out, find the resurrection point, and rise up to that meadow of love. It's as simple as that, and as difficult as that. Let's take that into prayer today. Oh God, we are willing to release and let go of the hold that duality has on us. We look upon it with compassion and love. And we rise up to that higher state of union with God. In union with God, I rise above this. Let's say that once again. In union with God, I rise above this. And I sustain that resurrection consciousness as I rejoice in the power of the presence and say, thank you, Father, Mother God, in the nature of the Christ. And so it is. Amen.